Wisdom is often said to be the most important of the six paramitas, or transcendent virtues. So much so that there's an entire literature devoted to it in Mahayana Buddhism called the Prajnaparamita Canon, or Prajnaparamita Sutras. And these are really the foundation of Mahayana Buddhism. But a question comes up with this word transcendent. Does it really mean what it says? Is that really the right word? Well, it's a kind of an inevitable word, really, because people look at the sufferings of this world, what Buddhists call samsara, birth, death, and rebirth, which is another way of saying, if you want to think of it just in terms of this life, another way of saying that things just don't always go the way you want. In fact, frequently they don't. And you can be guaranteed that in any given day, some of them won't, and sometimes things will go very bad indeed. That is samsara. So we look at that situation, we naturally want out. We naturally want to rise above it, to find a perspective on it that eases our suffering, calms our spirit, allows us to negotiate the difficulties of life. And we find this impulse in every religion. We want to transcend. But what green meditation teaches us is that there is no other world to get to. There is no other world more perfect than this one. There is no place to transcend to. And in fact, the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism tell us this as well, because they teach us that samsara is nirvana. In other words, nirvana is not someplace else to get to. It's not someplace else to go. What this means is that Buddhism is not selling tickets out of this world. What Buddhism teaches is that we transcend our notion of self, and that when we do that, we find ourselves living in what Buddhists call the Pure Land, and that land is this land. That land and this land are the same land. In the 12-step movement, they have a term, higher power, which is a very transcendently framed idea, a higher power. But so many people in the 12-step recovery movement have trouble with that higher power, that idea. So what actually ends up happening is that a lot of people in the recovery movement find a way of seeing that the higher power functions laterally as well. For instance, they will say, well, you don't necessarily have to believe in a higher power as in God. You can simply believe in the higher power of the 12-step movement itself, or the meetings, or the people that you are gathered with. This is the same idea we find in Buddhism. In Buddhism, the higher power is really other power. It simply means something other than our cramped, grasping, tense, afflicted sense of self. Buddhism says that the moment this becomes this, you experience a different world. We sometimes talk about it here as holding a stone and then relaxing it so that it immediately falls to the ground. We also speak of it in terms of doing the mantra practice and finding ourselves experiencing a very deep but alert relaxation at which time certain things which are ordinarily not clear to us at all become crystal clear. Our awareness becomes very transparent and flows very easily like the breath. Shakyamuni Buddha has a wonderful saying in the Dhammapada. Dhamma means literally the teaching, the Buddhist teaching. Dhamma is like the word or the Torah. It can also refer to the phenomena of the world, reality, or even nature itself. Pada means foot, or step, or path. So Dhammapada is really like the footsteps along the path, or the footsteps of the Dharma, or the teaching. So that this little collection of the original sayings of the Buddha, which is about 2,300 years old, is itself a record of the footsteps of people who have practiced and meditated like this for a long time. And the sayings are all very elegantly simple. Some of them are so short that you can really memorize them in a second and use them almost like an affirmation or a mantra throughout the day. This is by far my favorite. The way is not in the sky. The way is in the heart. The way is not in the sky. The way is in the heart. Now, if we ask ourselves what this means, well, we could come up with many explanations. But I think at its core, what it means is that the way is not remote from us. It's not an idea. It's not inaccessible. It's not up there. It's down here. It's not on the mountain. It's in the town. It doesn't lie any distance from us at all. We find the same teaching in the Bible. It's a completely universal teaching. In the book of Deuteronomy, God says through Moses, "For this commandment which I command you today is not too difficult for you, nor is it out of reach. It is not in heaven that you should say, 'Who will go up to heaven for us and make us hear it, that we may observe it?' Nor is it beyond the sea that you should say, 'Who will cross the sea for us to get it for us and make us hear it, that we may observe it?' But the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may observe it." I think of in your mouth as like the mantra. It's in your mouth. It's in your heart. It's vibrating through your body, that you may observe it. It's not up there. It's down here. The earth also is not up there. It's down here. So many problems, I think, in life really come from our inability to see what's right in front of us. You know, at one point, Gandhi, his people were suffering because they had to get their two things from the British. They had to get their cloth and they had to get their salt. Right? And there was tremendous hardship because of this. And so what did he do? He spun his own cloth and took people on a march to the sea to recover their own salt. These are two very obvious solutions. And we can do exactly the same thing in our lives if we withdraw the meanings and values that have gotten away from us and have become uprooted from our own immediate experience of life in connection to nature. We can take these things back and we can resituate and recenter them in our own lives, in our own direct experience with nature, and we can live a saner and healthier existence. The mantra is a 6-syllable manual for doing that. A 6-syllable manual. It's interesting how that manual works. Do you read it? I guess you kind of do. I mean, sometimes when I say it, I'll visualize the letters, but I'm not really particularly thinking about what it means. I'm simply letting it pull me into the embrace of the earth. And the earth really is the text. The way is not in the sky, the way is in the heart, the center, the ultimate frame of reference. And what our heart tells us is the same thing that nature tells us. You are here, you are blessed, you are taken care of, this is where you come from, this is where you live, this is where you will go. There's nothing to fret over, ever. And yet we fret, and so we say the mantra.